Well, I want to welcome you guys to Doolittle Institute. I know some of you have been here before for our expert panel last year. We had such a great time that we decided to do it again. I'm Lauren Bierman. I'm the STEM program manager here, and I also work as the affiliate partner for the Northwest Florida region for First Lego League, so you often see me at competitions. We here do a lot more than just STEM, but today it's all about you guys, and it's all about STEM, and it's all about shaping our city for City Shapers this year. So we're very excited to have these subject matter experts here acting as panelists for you guys. They took time out of their day to come and meet with you because they see the bright future that you guys are going to lead us into. So we're very excited for them, and they're going to introduce themselves in just a minute. We also have Brian Mitchell here from Eglin Air Force Base. He's the STEM program manager for Eglin, and he is going to be acting as our MC, and he will be asking the questions that you guys have already submitted. And then later on, he will also be taking questions that you think of. So I see lots of pens and paper out there, and I hope that as you're listening to their panelist introductions, and as you listen to the questions that are already being asked and the answers that are being given, you're thinking of new questions, because there will be time for new questions, because things are always changing. You came in here with an idea of what your problem and your project was, and you will probably leave with a new vision, maybe a new problem or a new solution to the problem you guys already identified, and we're really excited about helping you do that. So I'm going to turn it over to Mitch here, and he's going to get us started.
Thanks, Lauren. Good morning, everybody. It is fantastic to be here. The standing up here in front of sitting up here in front of the room when we do these things is always one of the coolest options that I have in my job. There's a whole lot of sitting at desks and sitting in meetings, and so this is a real great opportunity for me to get out and actually see your faces and get excited about what it is that you do. So the STEM outreach effort that we have across the Panhandle reaches out to about 20,000 students in about 16 counties, and you're an integral part of that, okay? So you're a growing number of students who are getting more involved in STEM. You're going through FIRST Robotics to do that, and it is an awesome thing. We have a fantastic panel this morning. They are going to introduce themselves here in just a minute, but I'm going to go ahead and let them kind of do the wave and hi. I'm gonna read their names off, and then we will go right into the introductions from there. So we have Mr. Jason Autrey from the Okaloosa County Director of Public Works. We have Mr. Michael Beedie, who is the City Manager of the City of Fort Walton Beach. We have Jay Smith from Ajax Building Corporation. And we have Mr. Daniel Payne, who is from the City of Fort Walton Beach Public Works and Utilities Director. So gentlemen, however you want to start that, you can go in whatever direction you want. Whoever's holding the microphone gets to go first. I think that's the vote that's going up on stage. So good. Have at it.
Well, before we jump in, can I guess the leaders tell us the schools that are represented here today so we have a good idea. Starting in front. Destin Middle School. St. Mary Catholic School. Pardon me? Stenham Academy. Okay. Is that the last one? Is that all Shoal River? Shoal River, raise your hand. Wow. They came in force today. Well, good. Well, good morning. Again, I'm Jay Smith with Ajax Building Company, and my company is a third-generation family-operated company. We now are employee-owned, so our employees all have the ability to be owners within the company. So we went from a family-owned only company to now multi-owners within that model. So we have a little over 200 employees, work throughout the Southeast, from North Carolina down to Key West, Florida. So all throughout Florida, and then mostly in the Southeast. We're also licensed in Alabama and Tennessee, but we're not currently. We've got a project in Auburn, Alabama, but those areas aren't a focus for us yet. So we're a general contractor, but our focus is not on what you standardly think of a general contractor builder. So we work as what in our industry is called a construction manager at risk, and we also lead in a design build standpoint. So I've had the unique ability to, and are working with all three of these gentlemen here to my left in different relationships. Both of those are what they call design build. So in a design build, the architect and engineers and the contractor all work together for an owner in one contract. So standard I'm jumping into some weeds here, but standard construction and design is typically there's a design contract, there's a construction contract, and then there's the owner. In a design build, there is one contract, and so the designer and the contractor are one team. So it works very efficiently on certain type of projects, and we'll probably get into detail on both of those projects. But my company, we focus on qualifications-based selection. So we like to think of ourselves as more than just a builder. We're there to help come up with solutions. What you all are talking about today, it's something that we're very proud of as we work with our clients as a city and the county, and they have an issue or a concern or something they're trying to address, and we work together and come up with those solutions. And it's a really unique opportunity to be a part of, to reshape, be a part of communities, and be in that impact. I grew up similar to you all, interested in construction, but also in the business operations. So I went to the University of Florida and got a degree in business with a focus in marketing. And growing up in the industry was a natural. I started in the field as a kid working, then worked as a project engineer, and then got into business development, now in the operations role. So we have seen a lot of unique things in a lot of different communities, so hopefully I'll be able to share some of those thoughts. But your engagement today is a great opportunity for you all to really talk to some unique lessons learned within these individuals up here. We got some really unique things, what we're doing with the city of Fort Walton and what we just completed with the county. So we'll be happy to talk about those in greater detail.
Hi, my name's Daniel Payne. I'm the Public Works and Utilities Services Director at the City of Fort Walton Beach. The City of Fort Walton Beach is roughly over 20,000 folks, and we're a full-service city. And what that means is we serve just about it all. Hopefully I'm not taking Mike's thunder a little bit, but from our own police, our own fire, water, sewer, streets, stormwater collection, everything we have except for sewer treatment, we handle and do ourselves, as well as garbage pickup in the city. It's exciting. I'm excited to be here today. Is a kid that grew up in Okaloosa County and went through. I went to Pryor. I didn't see any representatives. I'm sorry. I went to Wright Elementary and then Pryor. I didn't see any representatives from Wright, but I'm excited to be here and look forward to the questions that you guys have today.
Hey, it's on. We get our own mic, guys. You get to hear your own. So I'm Jason Autrey, Public Works Director for Okaloosa County. I ask my daughters all the time, do you know what I do for a living? And they all say the same thing, ain't got a clue. They don't know. So in Public Works for Okaloosa County, we take care of stuff that needs to be done but really isn't that popular to be done. The most obvious thing is roads. So we pave roads, we build roadways, fill potholes, fix stormwater issues, do stormwater pipes, take care of stormwater ponds. Those are things that have to be done, but they aren't really, fun things to do. We mow rights of way, we pick up debris, that kind of stuff. We also take care of solid waste or trash. That's probably the one thing that everybody wants to have move away, but nobody wants to deal with. But it's a very, very big industry. We have solid waste, and part of that is also household hazardous waste. So instead of taking paint and throwing it down the drain, you can take it to us, and we actually process that and turn it into another material. Typically, it goes into a roofing supply. That's how we work it out. We have mosquito control. Again, something around here, when you got mosquitoes biting you, one thing you want is for them to stop. So we actually have a group that helps maintain mosquito control population. All of the engineering is done through Public Works. So I have a county engineer that works in my department. He's got a couple of engineers that work with him. Anybody that does a development in Okaloosa County that is not inside of a city, so unincorporated Okaloosa County, if it's in the city of Fort Walton Beach, they deal with it directly. But they have to submit plans into Public Works, and our engineers review them to make sure that they are compliant with minimum standards. So that means that we watch out for the public health, safety, and welfare. That's a statement that we all have on there. Engineering also has a surveying section. We can do some survey design, and we have all of our environmental compliance is done through engineering. I also have the fleet department inside of Public Works, which means all of the vehicles that drive around with the county logo on the side, we got to maintain all those, keep them up and running. And then we also have facility maintenance, and facility maintenance has a couple of pieces in it. One of them is we simply take care of the buildings that we own. And then we also, inside of facility maintenance, we maintain our parks. We have one really big park in this county that everybody pays attention to, and that's the beach. So we are responsible for the cleaning of the beach. We take care of everything from the Gulf of Mexico to the state of Alabama between Walton and Santa Rosa County lines, about 1,100 square miles, a lot of space that we go through. Of course, Eglin takes up the middle portion. One of the things that's interesting about working for a county is that we deal with the municipalities inside of here. So I know Michael and Daniel very well. We work together regularly and have a lot of communication. In fact, when we walked in, we immediately started talking about the same issue that each of us are working on. So it's very common that we interact. And as Jay said, for the Shoal River guys, you'll know this very well. You know the courthouse that was just built? Who knows that is? They built it. They built it for us. So I was the owner, they were the contractor, and we worked together on that kind of project. So you can see how that comes together. I am originally from Gainesville, Florida. I was a Gator by birth, not by choice. I did go to the University of Florida, have a civil engineering degree, and still call Gainesville home, although I've lived in Okaloosa County for almost 20 years now. So I am glad to be here. I live in Destin. I told this young man down here at the end that my youngest daughter goes to Destin. My two older went to Destin Middle School, so I know you guys well. I work in Crestview, and then I have seen every one of these schools at the Math Counts competition over the past 15 years or so. So glad to see you guys sticking into this, and if there's anything that we can do to help you guys out, I'm certainly available for that. So I appreciate y'all having me here today.
Wow, I don't have much more to add, but thank y'all for being here. It's great to see the younger generation getting involved in this type of stuff. I'm Michael Beedie. I'm the city manager of the city of Fort Walton Beach. Like Daniel said, we're 20 to 21,000 citizens, full service city. I'm responsible for the oversight of a $47 million budget over 7 departments, including Daniel's. I actually used to hold Daniel's position before I became city manager. But my background, I do have a degree in civil engineering from the University of South Alabama. I am a licensed engineer in Florida and Alabama. I also have a master's of business administration from South Alabama also. But I've had the honor of being the manager of my hometown. I was born at Eglin Air Force Base. Grew up in Fort Walton Beach, went to Edwins Elementary, Bruner Middle School, and then Fort Walton Beach High School. So it's been great moving back here. Been with the city almost 15 years now. But we've done some great projects recently. We built a brand new recreation facility with an athletic complex. We're working with Jay right now on consolidating 8 facilities into one field office complex that will house all of our utilities, operations, fleet operations, facilities, solid waste, recycling, you name it. So it's been a great journey. We're doing a lot of great things in our downtown. We're trying to reroute Highway 98 through downtown. That process has started. That's going to be a huge game changer for the city. But we've got a lot of great things happening, and I look forward to hopefully answering some of your questions. So thank you.
And you can see that I failed on the memo of the uniform we were supposed to be wearing today. So
It's okay, because I'm a complete outlier over here, so it's perfectly fine. It's 9,000 degrees outside, so. So now we're going to start in with a Q&A. The questions, some of them were submitted by students from the teams before. Some of them we solicited from some of the staff out here at Doolittle and some other folks as well. And I'm just going to kind of move around. Some of them are going to be fairly broad. Some of them will be fairly specific. You don't all have to answer all of the questions. If one of you or a couple of you have a particular thing you want to answer on this one, then go right ahead. But we're gonna headlong into about a little after 10 o'clock, and then we'll open it up to the room. So big clock in the back. I'll be kind of keeping an eye on that thing as we go along. So one of the things that's interesting, I've lived here since 1996, and so one of the things that's true is a lot of water on the south end, a lot of federally owned land kind of mixed in and about, and a whole bunch of it up to the north end. And so housing becomes an issue, and where do you put it, and how do we manage population growth and those kinds of things. So first question, and this was submitted by Sarah Wilson's team: how efficient and cost effective would it be to build small compact houses?
I'll start with that. I think that what you're asking is probably the other way around. It's what will the market buy? Certainly you could put smaller houses into a smaller area, but if they don't sell, they're not going to build them. That's kind of the way it's driven. From the government perspective, which the three of us are on the government side of it, and we're regulatory is how we're reviewed. We don't dictate what people build, we simply review what they submit to us. However, we can influence to a degree with what we call zoning regulations. But the reality is, you can build as many small houses if you want. If they do not sell, they will not continue to build them. I think really what you're talking about is the term I would use is densification. And you are seeing some of that occurring. Like in Crestview, they're building some more apartment complexes. I think you're starting to see some of that in the Fort Walton area. I know down at the mall, there was a development that came in the Mary Esther area. They're looking at densification out there. And that is a realization. Generally speaking, what happens when the value of land costs more than it is to build a unit, you will see sprawl versus densification. So at this point in time, we do have space. You're correct. Eglin kind of blocks up the middle, and Fort Walton, Niceville, Destin, the southern end of the county had a little bit of space. I think they've about maxed that out now, so you'll see a revitalization down there. In the north end of the county in Crestview, you still see that they're building subdivisions where they have, people get their lot in their house because you have a bit of that space out there. So I think it's viable as long as the market puts it there. Those can be trendy. But that's one of those things that the demand will dictate what the private sector builds.
There's a community that was developed inside of Leon County, which is Tallahassee with the state capital. They're called tiny homes, and so there is a private developer there who's done very well. He has a mainline. It's a technology company. And so he's trying different things in different areas, and he's trying to take this more globally than just Leon County. But his whole focus is on a workforce housing. So he's got these, what they're tiny homes. So it's a 2- and 4-person residential space that he's leasing to them. And he's trying to get, a lot of these things have to do with a public-private partnership, and you'll hear a lot about that probably today. So the private developer, unless there's a market, as Mr. Autrey just indicated, they're not going to build those. So this is where the government and the private and public sector kind of work together because there's a need. You get areas like Destin, the Keys, certain areas where the cost of the land is increasing so quickly that affordability is an issue. So there's got to be a partnership there on working. So, the private industry kind of will rely on the public sector, and the public sector is relying on the private sector to kind of come together for a solution that makes sense because you need affordability. It can't just all be geared towards the multi-million-dollar home. So it's a unique thing that certain areas, and we're facing in this area tremendously. I mean, the growth in the Destin-Fort Walton area, we're expecting the next 5-10 years is tremendous. So this is going to be something that you're going to hear talked about within your classrooms, within the city and county commission meetings, and within the state economic development. So this is something that we're all trying to wrap our arms around and see how we can start to address.
Okay, so the next one deals with some transportation issues, and I'm gonna kind of combine some questions here, so bear with me. So one of the questions is walkability score a pending problem for cities and towns? And then I'm gonna tack on to that because I think that leads more to a public transportation thing. So would more use of buses and other public transportation options reduce the amount of wear and tear on roads?
I'll start with the walkability question. Jason can handle the bus question. But walkability is a huge issue, especially for the city of Fort Walton Beach. Our downtown has a lot of potential, but it's not really what you would consider walkable. We have a major highway going right through the middle of it in Highway 98. That is the main reason we're trying to do a project called Around the Mound, and we are trying to reroute Highway 98 north of existing downtown, which would go around our Indian Temple Mound Museum, which is why it's called Around the Mound. We want to make our downtown area more walkable. We want to increase density downtown by maybe building or having developers build more units, livable units, apartments, you name it. Because people, it seems the trend is people want to live, work, and play in the same area. A lot of the younger generation, they don't really want to drive anywhere anymore. They would rather be able to do everything all in one area, and that's the type of downtown that we want to have in Fort Walton Beach. And with the new Brooks Bridge coming in the next 3 to 5 years, we are hoping Around the Mound is right after that, which will create a walkable environment downtown. We've done a great job with parks like Ferry Park and our new athletic complex. We have a lot of walking trails, and we're trying to connect them all together, but really until we get downtown to where it's considered walkable, pedestrian friendly, I don't think anything else will, once you get your core developed, everything else seems to develop right around it.
So then buses on the roadway, what you're talking about is mass transportation. And in Florida, I can't think of a wildly successful mass transportation system, which would include Orlando, Miami, Tampa, Jacksonville, even these large municipalities. They just don't have the what you would think of mass transit like when you think New York or Chicago or in LA, those kind of areas. And the reason is because we still have space and we kind of spread out. And the American mentality is, I like mine. I like my house, I like my car, I like my schedule, and so that doesn't really blend into using mass transit. We do have a bus system in Okaloosa County Transit. It is not heavily utilized, and you got to remember as well, most of the people that come visit us, they're tourists, they drive here. A lot of our tourists drive here. When you drive here, you get your own car, you're on your own schedule, you can do what you want to do. So certainly, buses, carpooling, anything like that could reduce wear and tear on the roads, we'd like that. But that is really what you talk about as a cultural issue. And we just don't have the density in Okaloosa County. Even in the downtown Fort Walton Beach area, you're still going to have, I would venture to guess, those houses you build, they're probably going to have cars. I had a cousin that lived in New York City for 5 or 6 years, and she didn't own a car because she didn't need to. She could walk everywhere she wanted to go to. We just don't have that density, that luxury, I guess you could say, in this area. So it would help if we had that, but that's just not the model that our community is set up in.
Okay, so now we're I'm gonna do a broader question that talks about tourism in the area. So how does a city built with infrastructure scaled for its residents, sewage, roadways, water supply, and power, accommodate an influx of tourists swelling the population to 2 to 4 times its residential population?
Well, that's a good question. Here in Okaloosa County, that from Memorial Day to Labor Day, you are just that. Your population increase sometimes trifold. As a water and a sewer provider, it's up to us to make sure that infrastructure is in place and that can handle serving everybody safe drinking water and as well being able to dispose of the wastewater that comes along with it, because as you guys know, once you drink the water, then you got to deal with the water afterwards. The infrastructure in place that we have is that we have to. You guys see the water towers that we have over there. We have drinking water well fields and stuff that not just on the city side but on the county side that tap into those reserves and make sure that amount supply is available for use on that end. It is very challenging. It's about the worst thing that we could think of as a utility director is water main break, 98, 4th of July, which for some, or on the Brooks Bridge, just to compound it. So infrastructure, very important. It's very important to keep it in good working order. It's very important to have backup and redundancy. Redundancy meaning, okay, we do have this line, but let's just say something did happen to this line. What can we do? Because like we said, nobody wants to leave their customers without safe drinking water for a period of time, really no matter when, but especially during those summer heavy populated months that we have in our county.
The word you're using is capacity. How do you have the capacity to deal with tourists? And quite honestly, what we look at is a little bit different. We look at it in terms of growth, because every single year the population does grow. Historically in Okaloosa County, we get about a 3 to 6% growth rate on average. So if we have the capacity to handle growth long term, then you have the inherent ability to handle those incremental spikes as they occur in seasonal. Destin has a really unique example. The population in Destin is about 11,000. Those are the people that live there. But in the summertime, when you get tourists, you get a population of about 50,000. So you said trifold. You can quintuple the number of people that are using those facilities out there. And so they have to have that capacity built in, not only to provide the water, but then to treat the services that are out there. And that applies to electrical. So even something as simple as cell phones. If you have a cell phone in Destin, you ever notice how it works really slow in the summertime? It's because they just don't have the capacity inside of that. So the way we gauge it is by having the overall capacity. And when you look at water, wastewater systems, we're looking at capacity for 50 years out, which inherently allows you to contend with those summer or seasonal spikes.
Okay, so now we're gonna drill way down, and we're talking about things at a pretty detailed level. This will probably pick the brain of some of the engineers on the stage. And so I'm assuming this is probably relating to a specific project or a thing that they have. This is coming out of Don Pack's team at Destin Middle. So in your opinion, what is an effective method for building a table mover that can move not only tables, but chairs, desks, and cabinets?
So don't ask the engineer first. Let's let the builder do it first, and then we'll tell him how he did it wrong. That's exactly right.
Wow, it's like working in the lab.
A table. So tell me what a table mover. What is the purpose of what this is supposed to do?
So I think I've read the question, I don't know, probably 50 times sitting up here, and I think what they're getting at is quite literally just that. Just what is an effective way to get a table from one place to another, and can it be modular enough that you can move other pieces of furniture with it, like a desk or a file cabinet or something like that?
All right, I'll go first. And just so you know, I have a civil engineering degree. You've got a civil engineering degree. Michael has a civil engineer. So you got 3 civil engineers up here. And I will tell you the way I think is, I use the term, I think linear. I think pragmatic all the time. And I think, what is the goal? So you'll notice the first question I ask is, what do you want it to be able to do? That is how, as an engineer, I think. I could tell you it's real easy to move a table from one side of the room to the other. Just get 2 guys, pick it up, and move it over there. But is that what you want to do? Are those the resources you have available? So I think in order to get your answer, you have to know what you're trying to answer. What do you want the table mover to do? Is it you're trying to make it so that one person can move 8 tables at once? Or do you want to move a small table like this across the room? So to help me define what your goal is. Yes, speak up, guys. Go ahead.
I've got a microphone, so if
that mic's way cooler than ours.
I know, right? And you can throw it.
Yeah.
Right? You? Just talk right into it.
We do not want those at public meetings because they will get thrown. Yeah. Is it on?
Nice and close. Yeah, nice and close. It might not be on. Throw it back.
All right, next engineering problem. Make sure it's plugged in and turned on.
So we can move tables more efficiently for big meetings and move it more efficiently so you don't have to have so many people to do it at once.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so if you couldn't hear what Ms. Pack was saying is that they have staff that's trying to move tables around in the summertime, I guess in empty classrooms and lunchroom, and you got 1 or 2 people that are trying to move 30 or 40 tables. Helps clarify. It's a lot easier than me just saying pick it up and move it across the room. Chairs. You know what are these chairs stackable? Yes. They are? Why are they stackable? Because they're easier to move. To condense space. So I would say the table mover is actually a factor of what your tables are like. So you have to find, if your table is just like what you're sitting at now, you're gonna have to find some sort of cart mechanism that you could stack them, situate them to get more than one at a time on a cart to relocate them. That's about as simple as I get. So I think you have to figure out what your I'm gonna use the word parameters are, what your limits are, what's your goal of what you're trying to move, and then put the puzzle together. I can't think of any other way to say that.
Yeah. Then you think through the details, and then I saw a question on what type of wheel, what type of flooring system do you have? What does your storage capacity look like? Is it a conditioned space, unconditioned space? So that all of those details require some plan. So in any type of design solution and construction solution, you have to know all of the facts and then come together. So you get an engineer together, you get someone that actually is going to build it, and then you need the person that's going to maintain and operate, all in the same room, to have all of the issues, concerns, and facts, and then develop a solution. So it starts with how do you move tables, to how do you move people, to how do we educate. All of those things are the same root of the same thing. You get all of the information, and you get different minds to come together to develop the solution, and it's got to be cost effective. I mean, there's probably a really expensive solution, there's probably an inexpensive solution, but there's probably something in between that really will to win the day. And so it's our job together to come up with that solution and present those options.
Yeah, and I will tell you, I think the best thing, first of all, a bit of advice that I would give every student that's in here: never be afraid to be wrong. As engineers, we are commonly afraid that if I have a wrong answer, or if I get proven I was wrong, that you get embarrassed. I'm telling you, the mistake is the best way to learn. So don't be afraid to be wrong. So if you have an idea, throw it out there. When you have that idea, go to the person that's going to use it. When we built the courthouse, we had to lay out a courtroom, and the architect laid out a courtroom. I thought it looked great on paper, and as soon as we walked in there, one of the bailiffs said, "This is on the wrong side of the room." And it never once occurred to me, because to me it made perfectly good sense, but the user's going to do it. So in terms of the people that are having to move it around in the summertime, or that are moving, ask them, does this work for you? And if they say no, don't be offended, don't get your feelings hurt, accept it as input, and again, modify that design. But I think too often we think that I'm going to have one idea, and if it doesn't work, that I'm no good, and that's just not the case. You're going to be wrong way more often than you're going to be right, so don't let it bother you.
Okay, so there was a follow-up question to that, but that leads into what you were just talking about. We see 3D printing, additive manufacturing starting to, it increases every day, like more and more things, from heart valves all the way up to, small houses in Japan. So from your perspective, engineering and design, do you see 3D printing as making it easier to go through that engineering design process if you can 3D print multiple models in shorter periods of time to go through those phases?
If you guys didn't notice, I'm not afraid to talk, so I'll keep doing it. So I'll give a little bit of a history lesson. So when I started college back in the 90s, we had a computer program called AutoCAD that was DOS-based. Who has heard of AutoCAD? Who knows what DOS-based is? Okay, I figured it was my age group people that would raise their hand on both of those questions. And what it was is a program that allowed us to draw on a computer. The advantage to that was just before then we had to draw everything by hand. I know how to do this style of writing. It's actually called Leroy. It's a way that you write, and engineers commonly write this way. When you used to draw it by hand, if you made one little change, it was very difficult. You had to erase something off the paper, hope you didn't tear through the paper, and if it was a major change, you had to start all over and draw it again. Well, now we put it on a computer. If I want to change a line, I simply just go in and I erase that line and I move it. Well, that was on a DOS base, which was just two-dimensional flat picture on there. Nowadays, they have programs, it's still an AutoCAD version, but you can make a 3D model that you can rotate through the screen and you can see it and you can kind of gain depth to it. That's a huge advantage because in our world, when we're doing buildings, the courthouse we built, we literally had a 3D model that showed it where pipes in the floors would cross and conflict one another. Used to be the only way you found that was when you built it and you got a problem in the field. Now you can do that. Well, with 3D modeling, with 3D printing, not only can you see it, but now you can touch it and you can give it a spatial understanding to it. One of the hardest parts about what all of us do is taking a paper concept and envisioning what that will physically look like in the field. So I do believe that 3D modeling is a huge step forward, and actually I wouldn't be surprised if the day comes that computer 3D printing is the way that it is built, just because it can be so efficient, and you can simply just change one little thing, hit print, you got a brand new one all over again. So I do think it helps. I think you will continue to see that technology evolve. Like I said, and my career hasn't been that long. I'm talking 25 plus years ago, we were just starting to draw it on a computer. 25 years, we have gone from just being able to draw it on a computer to now the computer can automatically print out a 3D handheld size, or a full size for that matter, and that's pretty remarkable. I can only imagine where it's going to go next, and y'all are going to figure that out for us.
Okay, so now we're gonna come out of the detail. We're gonna go a little more broad. So this is kind of for the entire panel here. Whoever wants to answer this one, you guys may have to steal that mic if you need to. So how important have you found it in the community to have well-maintained recreational facilities such as parks, children's parks, festivals, grounds, boat ramps, public beach accesses, et cetera?
You know, as a city, cities form to provide really a higher level of service and different types of services than what the county provides. The counties were developed to provide your basic services, law enforcement, fire protection, things of that nature. But then groups of people got together and formed cities because they wanted more. They wanted quality of life is huge when it comes to cities. It's something that Fort Walton Beach prides itself on. We just invested $8.5 million in a recreational facility with a complex with 5 Little League fields, 3 multi-purpose soccer, lacrosse type fields, and a couple of adult softball fields. But we have 23 parks in our city. Back in the 1960s, there was a movement by city council and the citizens to have a park in every neighborhood in our city. And so we now have 23 parks throughout the city. Every citizen we have is within walking distance of a park, whether it be a large park or just a small neighborhood park. And so our city council has made a commitment to investing in quality of life services like that. We also have a 36-hole golf course. A lot of cities are figuring out ways to get out of the golf business, but our golf course is so popular. We've gone 5 years ago from losing about $500,000 at the golf course to this current year, we're actually at a break-even point. So golf is not a good industry to be in, but people love it. It's something that we've had for 20 plus years, and I can tell you 6 or 7 years ago, council talked about getting rid of the golf course, and you wouldn't believe the amount of outcry, the amount of public outcry we had. I'd say 200 people show up to council meetings to make sure that the golf course wasn't done away with. We are about to invest $5 million in our downtown park, which is called The Landing. It is a focal point for us for festivals, for concerts. In fact, tomorrow night we have a concert at The Landing. It's our final fall concert. We are going to invest $5 million through partnerships with the county for funding. Part of the funding is through the BP oil spill settlement. We are going to put a brand new performance stage up there, a brand new playground, splash pad area, you name it, because families and children and visitors, they love visiting quality of life services like that. So we pride ourselves in doing that. Our city has made the commitment. Most of them don't make money, but cities aren't really money makers. We're there to provide quality of life services and core services to our citizens.
Yeah. From a non-government side of this, your generation, this is something important for you all that, again, cities and counties are facing right now, is the growth. So the residential growth in all these communities that are being developed here in Okaloosa and Walton counties and Santa Rosa counties. So they're trying to meet the demand of the growth, and some of them are being built without the park system, and they do not have a sense of identity. A sense of place is, again, a big term that's used these days. And so this is something that your generation needs to be aware of and be thinking about as y'all learn and watch how communities are growing. That sense of place is what gives a community feel. So again, what is your generation going to want in a community? We talked about the walkable communities. All those things are something that, as you all are growing and learning and getting more into the STEM world, these are all important things, because people in an area that don't communicate, that don't come together, you lose that sense of community, and you could live anywhere in the United States. But having those parks and having the thought of the walkable community, all those things are what give people a reason to live in those communities. So you want to have the ability to go all the way to school and come back to where you're from, because it means something and it has that feel. If not, you can go anywhere in the United States. And so that's what a government side is really trying to focus on, is create those things with each one of those parks. And it's an investment that taxpayers are all questioning, do we need that? Because it's a unique dynamic. So these gentlemen have a tough task. So they're trying to manage with a population that's here today, but also think 20 and 30 years from now what you all are going to want in your community. And so it's a unique dynamic, because you can only do so much with the money that's available, and that's a tax base, which, again, you all is a whole nother avenue that we could jump into, how to manage the allotment of funds there.
And just real quick to add what Jay said, as part of our role that we have in here, one of our main goals is provide the infrastructure and the quality of life to be able to keep our homegrown talent here, especially you folks, to provide opportunities for you guys in the future to be able to keep some of our best resources here in Okaloosa County, provide an environment where you guys can excel and exceed and grow up and do the same as your parents have provided for you.
Okay, so next question. How can we, cities, individuals, the way that we plan, the way that we design things that we do, help reduce our carbon footprint on the environment?
Well, that's a good question. Your carbon footprint, based on your definition of it, consumption of stuff that you guys have. You guys know, we like to recycle. Is it necessarily that we buy everything in a plastic container? I don't know. What we do is try to keep up with what everyone else is doing. In consuming things, whether it's not water efficiency or stuff, we always strive that. On the utility side of things, I know for Walton, we want low flow fixtures if you can in your businesses and your residences. We solid waste wise and on the recycling side of things, we try to get the message, public outreach for what you guys are supposed to put in the recycling can versus what you don't. So everybody has a role in helping their carbon footprint. And but ultimately, individually wise, it takes everyone as a team effort to help with that.
It's carbon footprint's a big statement. The one everyone thinks about is cars, but it's more than that. When you walk out of a room, turn the light off. If you leave the house for the day, turn the air up. If you're brushing your teeth, turn the water off. they're little things. If you've heard the adage, I know everyone's heard the expression, a penny saved is a penny earned. That just, what that means is that for every little bit that you can do, it matters. It really does matter. So you've just got to be conscientious on how you use things. Don't be wasteful. If there's a way that you can sleep at night with the air conditioner at 75 as opposed to 74 degrees, that you're going to save a little bit. That reduces the carbon footprint. So they're all little pieces that add up.
Yeah, and I think the awareness from the design and construction world towards the net neutrality, net zero buildings, it's something that has really changed in the last 15, 20 years. So there's a bunch of different organizations, U.S. Green Building Council, Green Globes. So there's some really thoughtful leadership in trying to push all of us into thinking, how do we make things more energy efficient and reusable? So the flooring in here, your mechanical systems that's pushing the air conditioning system. So the technology has changed a lot, and so we talk through those things, and it's a cost-benefit analysis. I mean, a lot of things come down to dollars and cents. So if we can pay 10% more but save 20% of cost over the next 20 years, those are things that we have those discussions in our design and construction team meetings. But it's a first cost and a life cycle cost things on energy usage of a building. So wind, solar, water retention, there's a lot of neat things, but you all need to keep thinking from the STEM environment how ways we can become more efficient. Solar is a great thing, but the cost of solar and the energy production, we really haven't come to that point where it drives our discussion yet, because it's so costly. So again, you all need to be that push of change. You all need to continue to push and think of ways that you can generate energy without our standard system. So, I think all of us on the stage would love to have more reusable energy within all of the facilities that we design and build, but the cost of them are not there yet. So it's a major cost purchase. So some government groups are willing to take that additional cost on, but the citizens of that community need to be aware of what they're doing. So it needs to be driven by you all to say, we understand that and we're willing to pay that additional dollar at this time because we think it's going to be there in the next 3 years or whatever. But again, it's a big discussion of trying to do it on a design and construction side. But again, a lot of it's all how you all run your daily lives and your things. So what do they say? 30% of energy usage is probably based on how you use it, right? So turn off lights, turn off water. I mean, it's a lot of things we do as individuals, and being aware is it's all you can do. It's a great start.
Okay, so this is the last of the prepared questions, and then we'll open up to the audience. But this one's for all of you, so we're gonna get an answer from each of the panelists on this one. So, what's your advice to young people to become active and engaged in shaping the city in which they live?
Well, over the last few months at the city, we've had a lot of conversation about civic and community engagement. I will say 90% of our council meetings that we have 2 a month usually. The attendance is the same, 4 to 5 people every time, no matter what item is on the agenda or really any topic that's on there. Now we'll have meetings with specific topics where we'll have more and more people, but I would hope that you and your peers would want to be more engaged in what's going on in your communities, because while we may be the decision makers that are hired by the elected officials to do things, we don't always know what's best. We always solicit community input and ideas, and then it's our job to take that input and ideas and make them the best that they can be. But we're not, by far, we're not the experts in everything. You're gonna know what you want, you're gonna know what you like, and those of us that work in this industry, we want to get that input because it actually will help make our cities and counties better to where we can keep our talent home. Even if they go off to college, they'll want to come back because that's really our goal. Is we want to create communities that people want to be in.
So my advice would be to ask questions and be willing to learn. And when you ask a question, you have to be willing to accept the answer may not be what you agree with, or you may not like it, but it's input. I would be cautious of what you read on the internet. Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, all of those things are opinions, but nothing is as good as sitting down and talking face to face with somebody and reading that reaction, getting that feedback right away. And don't take one person's answer as the only answer. If you're looking at shaping a community, and Michael is absolutely right. I mean, I've been working for the county for 15 years, and I am constantly learning. There are times where I think I know what's going to happen, and I'm not quite right. In fact, more often I'm wrong than I'm absolutely right. But you got to have a willingness to adapt and to take that information in. And when you're talking about a room full of people, just in this room alone, we have a huge variety of opinions and perspectives, and none of them are wrong. They're just different. And in order to be engaged in community leadership and working in the government side, you have to be willing to take all that input in. But in order for me to get input, I've got to be able to receive input. You've got to be able to share it in a professional and in a very respectful manner, and that doesn't always happen. And if you want proof of that, look at Facebook. But if you want to get involved, then I think what you have to do is just to go ask questions. Go to our offices and ask us. We're not afraid to talk with people and tell you what we think. And if you get an idea, share it. And if your idea. Commonly, the first idea is not where you end up. The courthouse that we built is absolutely nothing like where we started. Not a thing where we started is what we built. And that's just a willingness to take information in, to bring input in, and adapt and change and evolve. And eventually you get to a point where you walk away and you go, wow, we did a really good job of assimilating all the ideas. So ask questions is the way to be engaged.
Jason and Michael are exactly right. The only thing I think I would add is, regardless of you live within a city or in a portion of the unincorporated part of the county, go to a meeting. Have your parents take you to a meeting. Go to the meeting with somebody that can get you there, and sit through it and see what it's like. And you would probably have a different perspective on that. And afterwards, hopefully it's a good one. But that's probably the only recommendation I have on that end.
Be engaged. I mean, it's a simple thing to say, but starting now, there's things you can do within your neighborhood to, clean up your neighborhood, to get people to talk together. The biggest change that I think we've all seen is the technology side of things. It's improved so many things in life, but it's also hindered a lot of things today. The ability to sit in here, to go through concerns, issues, and work through them in a face-to-face manner is the most important thing that you all need to continue to do. You can always find a solution if you're willing to work together. And what's happened now is we've generated this technology sense where you can text somebody, you can Snapchat them, whatever those things are, and that's not going to solve a real issue or concern. You've got to be engaged. And so, start now, be involved in your community, pick up trash, help other people. All of those things start that whole sense, and you all can continue to come together as a team, as a community to really solve solutions. But it starts individually in your small little neighborhood, then it goes into your community, your city, your county, and then state. And so, but you've got to start where you can make the most impact, and that's right there in your neighborhood or community, and then it grows from there.
Okay, so now it's all up to you, right? So here's the way we're going to do this. the questions that you have. I've been sitting up here watching a lot of you, most of you, if not all of you, kind of writing furiously. So I know I've seen pages of notes. So you thought of questions, you thought of things. So raise your hand. I'm going to come by. I'm not going to chuck this at you from across the room, but it is really soft and squishy. It's a lot like a Nerf ball. It's not going to hurt anybody. But raise your hand. I'll come to you, get you the microphone, answer your question, and they'll be happy to answer it for you. So who's first? Come on, somebody has to go first. Don't be shy. That's you. Yeah, I know, right? All right. There you go. Name and school.
I'm Aaron and I go to STEM Academy. What would you say is the biggest problem right now in the city? Like, as far as public concerns?
Well, we are actually proposing a new fire assessment fee to help fund our public safety. As Daniel said earlier, we're a full service city. We do police, fire, and everything else. And governments are historically, they're happy with just status quo. But we're to a point where we're on the verge of a lot of growth, especially of downtown, all the stuff that we want to happen downtown. So we have proposed a fire assessment fee, which is pretty common throughout the rest of the state, but it's relatively new in this area. I think Tallahassee and Milton are the two closest that have one. And I will tell you, the public outcry has been, and it's from a small minority of the public. I mean, we're close to 21,000 citizens. We've probably got 15 to 20 citizens or business owners that have been very, very vocal in opposition to this. And Facebook has been our enemy through this because this group has formed their own little groups, and they're trying to garner a lot more opposition. But that's the biggest issue we have going on right now. We need it for growth. We've been very transparent. We're not in any position to lobby for or against something. We just report the facts. But unfortunately, when people like something or when they're happy with something, they tend to just sit back and not say anything. It's usually that vocal minority that doesn't like something. They tend to be the loudest.
Michael's absolutely right about that. Who has heard the term the 80-20 rule? Who's heard that, the 80-20 rule? And there's a lot of ways you can apply that, because in engineering school we talk about that all the time. But to me, in the government side, the 80-20 rule is 20% of the people do 80% of the talking. And I would bet you it's probably more like 5-95, to be honest with you. But what you're talking about is the minority that hears it. There are several issues that we worry about. What you're talking about is I would call it temporary issue. It's the issue of the day. Recycling is an issue of the day for the county. If you'd ask me what's the biggest picture issue for the county, it's transportation and traffic. Fortunately, we have a nice resource of funds in our surtax that was recently approved, and we're making huge strides in that gain, in that area with roadway improvements. But nobody likes being stuck in traffic, and that's probably, our transportation is probably one of our biggest issues as a long-standing theme.
On a completely unrelated to the city, but our biggest challenge is workforce. So we're trying to meet the demands of growth and the need for everything that these gentlemen are trying to do, and the focus of young generation going into the actually ability to build things and want to work with their hands is really changed. So the average age of a construction worker is in the late 50s, early 60s, and so what that does is it drives up costs for these facilities, and so that puts a hindrance on a community and things. So workforce development is a big thing that you'll hear a lot through your lives, but it's a big concern and issue. The aging population's changed so much, so it's up to your generation and our generation to kind of really work through that and find ways to be able to meet the demand of our population growth here in the South. The North is losing people, the South is gaining people, California is losing people, Texas is gaining people, so it's just that shifting dynamic and having to meet that need.
Okay, next question. There you go.
Is it common for deaths to be caused by cars?
Say that again.
Is it common for deaths to be caused by cars?
Deaths to be caused by cars.
Be more specific. Selling your car.
Yeah.
Safer. Our project is to make streets safer, so we just wanted to ask, like, for pedestrians to be hit by cars.
I understand. Okay, so yes, that is one of our when we do road design, and that is an area that I kind of grew up in, was the road and stormwater design. Pedestrian safety is always an issue. In Destin, not too long ago, there was a meeting that they had, and they were talking about the crosswalks that are out there and a pedestrian conflict, and they said, well, if you just make this one little change, then you could not have the pedestrian conflict. And they're like, well, that's fine, other than you've put it over here. You just kind of move the problem around. When we look at road design, we look at safety all the way around, whether it's pedestrians, vehicle safety. Does it require a stop sign or a stop light? Is it better to have an elevated interchange versus an at-grade intersection? So safety is the number one thing that you look at when you do roadway design and intersection design, because I don't know if anybody in here has ever lost a family member or a friend to a car accident, but if you lost one, that's one too many. We'd love to say that there will never be an accident, but the unfortunate part of it is that when you have cars on the roadway that travel at high rates of speed and the distractions that exist, and it could be a distraction, could be something from the cell phone, it could be a bad day at work or at school, it could be the sun glare hitting your eyes for just a second, you're going to have those issues. So yes, fatalities are always a primary concern in road design from my perspective, and I'm sure the other engineers would say the exact same thing.
Jason's exactly right. I think on the engineering side, there's never anything as more frustrating as going through the whole process, like Jason had mentioned, seeing everything you put into place, accounting for everything you could do on a pedestrian level, and then going out and see someone not using a crosswalk or going in an exact opposite direction than what you thought. And that's unfortunately a lot of time how a lot of this stuff happens. So the behavior of pedestrians and bicyclists too, is a portion of that problem that we try to design, but at the same time, the behaviors and education of the people using it also has to change a little bit too.
I got a great example. Whose mom or dad tells them what to do every now and then? Has your mom or dad ever told you what to do, right? So do you listen every single time they tell you to do something? Do you do exactly what they tell you to do every single time? No. Guess what? People who walk, drive cars, ride bikes, they're the same way. We could put a sign up that says the speed limit is 35 miles per hour. I guarantee you, not everybody will follow those rules. So what Daniel's describing is, and I have a saying, you're going to laugh when I say this, you can write it down, you can put my name on it because I've been quoted before. You can't out-design stupid. Okay? You can't do it. You can make all the best design in the world, but if somebody decides they don't want to follow the rules, no matter what we design or build, it's not foolproof. So that is a very frustrating part to what we do. You're going to come up with a great idea that if everybody followed the rules, it would work perfectly, but everybody doesn't follow the rules. Humans are behind those cars. Yeah, humans are behind those cars. That's right. That's why they're called accidents. That's right.
Okay, who's got the next question? Right there.
What are some problems with the houses near the beaches, like when there's a hurricane about to hit in the area? And how can you make the buildings better, like in Destin and in other cities?
So building code changes have really made the coastal communities a lot safer. So what's happened is you see newer areas, newer construction when a storm hits typically last and do very well because they've learned over time and the building codes have changed. So, water and wind are really unique dynamics. Mother Nature typically wins every battle she's ever faced. So what we've tried to do is build higher to build out of floodplains and also build structures that can withstand wind changes. So that's a big thing of the barrier, how close to the beach should we be building? It's a big, everybody wants to be on top of the water because they want that specific view, but there needs to be some distance there. There needs to be height, and then the structures, but it adds cost. So those, you're impacted a few years ago, but now we're seeing what Hurricane Michael did to Gulf County. Specifically was probably the most impacted part of Bay County, but most of Bay County was off of the water. But to rebuild Gulf County is going to be a unique dynamics because it's going to cost those homes that were there, let's say they average $200,000 to build. To rebuild those same homes now are going to be close to $600,000 to $700,000. So what is that dynamic going to do? So it's a balance that leaders, public leaders in the city, county, and state are trying to figure out that dynamic. But that's the quickest answer is to design and build for it. But there's also a cost implication of what it does to those communities as well.
Yeah, and the reality is, no matter what we design, Mother Nature will find a way to defeat it. I don't know that we'll ever get to the point where you're going to have a tornado-proof structure, an earthquake-proof structure, a hurricane-proof structure. So, there's a percentage of risk. That's another part of the 80-20 rule. There's only so much of it you can account for, which is why when hurricanes hit, we have evacuation orders. But you know what? Not everybody listens. And so, that's why you just do the best that you can with what you have. Beach erosion's a big issue for us, especially in Destin. The beaches in Destin are severely eroded, and we try and find ways to renourish it. But the reality is it erodes because that's what Mother Nature does.
Okay, question over here.
How can you make roads more efficient in traffic-filled areas such as Destin for traffic?
And there's the problem with admitting you live in Destin. There's several ways you can go about doing it. Obvious one is more lanes. You add more lanes of capacity, you could move traffic through. The problem is it would fill up. So I don't know that that's a solution. It would be great if I told people, hey, you should ride your bike and walk more, but not everybody's going to want to do that. It's 120 degrees outside. I'm not going to walk. That's just the reality of what we've got. There isn't a quick answer. Everyone thinks if you time the lights better, it would work better. I will tell you that our traffic signal system in Okaloosa County is actually very efficient. The way that we will see improvements is when the style of the traveler changes. So it will get to the point of diminishing returns, and you're starting to see that in Destin now, where they're trying to make it so that it is more reasonable to get around other than driving your car from point A to point B. And I'll give you specific examples. There are some places I will not go because driving there is too difficult. I just avoid them. I live in Destin. I know, and for all the Destin kids here, you don't go out to eat at 7 o'clock in the summer. You just don't do it because you're not going to be able to get there and the restaurant's going to be packed. So you make decisions that alter that. I also believe that, and you've probably heard this before, that necessity is the mother of invention. And something is going to change. I don't know what it is, but one day one of you guys are going to come up with an idea that will alter the way we get from point A to point B. Gonna date myself a little bit, but who's seen the cartoon The Jetsons? Right? How did they get around? Cars that flew, or they had little things that sucked them up a tube and spit them in some other location. I'm not going to say that's what's going to happen, but one day something different will be out there and we'll have a different challenge to face.
There you go.
What places are the most inconvenient in most cities?
To travel to is
Like, if you're walking around traveling, what places are the most inconvenient?
well, from what you said, it's and I can only really speak for city of Fort Walton, but it seems like the areas that are highly traveled with cars, is obviously it poses a little different risk walking around. As much as we try to make it walkable, Those are usually the most difficult to cross, especially getting from one side of the road to the other. That's why you guys will see different color, signage, crosswalks that are try to be clearly marked. The most challenging areas to walk around are usually the ones that are the most lit up and marked for, people walking around to try to get to.
Yeah, congested areas, blighted areas, which to me are areas that are run down, that aren't safe. Those are difficult areas. Those are, inconvenience, not really the word I'd use, but areas of concern. Areas that aren't safe, and they can be safe for any number of reasons. It could be safe because of the activities that are going around there. It could be unsafe because there's not enough lighting. Those are rather inconvenient. Those are probably the areas that I would say are inconvenient.
There's other communities, so I have the ability to work all over the place in the Southeast, and every community faces a similar challenge trying to get people to come back to downtown. So downtown's become inconvenient, so that's in my belief most cities, because it used to be plenty of parking, ease to get in and out, but the downtowns typically are usually smaller streets, so there's usually 2, maybe 4 lanes in a downtown area. The parking is difficult at different times of the day, and so what happens is we've re-taught ourselves as citizens to not go downtown to go eat or go shop for clothes. We have big malls now. You have a retail center here with a lot of parking. You can pull in and park at any time for free. So there's all those things that, again, governments are having, city government here is trying to figure out of, so they got to pay for the parking, the city does, to build it, but citizens don't want to pay a meter to park down there. So there's a lot of cities and counties trying to figure out, all right, do we offer free parking, but then how do we take care of that cost to build those parking facilities? Because it's much easier to pull out here and go park in this big lot. So there's those unique dynamics of getting people in and out of downtown, but you need a true downtown in order to have that sense of community. And so that's a balance that you all are going to have to solve as y'all keep growing, and because it's going to be a challenge you're going to face in your lifetime as well.
Okay, do we have another question over here? There you go.
What's one way we can help flooding go down more quickly?
Flooding?
What's one way we can help flooding go down more quickly?
Well, on the stormwater side of things, we want to make sure, capacity-wise, that we can handle rainfall events that we can. Now, sometimes there's a limit to those rainfall events that we can handle, and we have to make the tough decision about which type of events we want to handle. Do we want to try to spend the capital and do something that might happen, once in our next lifetime, or do we want to have something that occurs on a regular occurrence? One of those ways for flooding is to address stormwater. Stormwater is important. In the city of Fort Walton, stormwater is a utility. We have, which means everybody pays for stormwater except for schools and churches on a civic matter. So we're aggressive about stormwater. We try to address it as much as we can, and we develop plans, both long-term and short-term, to make sure our infrastructure is, first of all, there, which is the biggest issue, and then working.
Yeah, and I would say to get out of problems, usually the best thing is to try and find a way that you can prevent them. So to prevent flooding, don't throw lawn clippings down storm drains, don't fill in stormwater ditches, don't fill in stormwater ponds. Make sure that where water is supposed to flow down the street, that it's not obstructed. Allowing that water to move properly as it's designed will help minimize the potential for flooding. Once you've flooded, the only thing you can do is wait until it gets out. So really, your best effort is spent beforehand trying to prevent getting into that situation.
Next question over here. There you go.
There are a lot of people that have opinions and ideas about problems, but they don't know how to get their voices heard. So how do you ensure that your voice will be heard on an issue?
Well, we have various opportunities to allow citizens to provide input. the best way is to show up to our council meetings, and we do every meeting. We have a public comment section to where you can get up and speak for up to 3 minutes on any issue that's not even on the agenda. But then every item that's on the agenda, you can actually speak, whether you're for or against it, but you have an opportunity to voice your opinion. We also have a Facebook page that we post information on a daily basis, whether it's our citywide page or our departmental pages for fire, police, recreation. We always check those pages. You can always put input on there if you have any ideas. You can always call us, email us. We're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, especially myself and council members and all of our department heads. But we want, just like the previous question about engagement, we want community engagement. We want to do anything we can to get it, because we don't want to be the ones sitting up here making all the decisions on our own, because that usually turns bad when something's implemented or a project's completed that people didn't know about or had input on. So we try to get out beforehand, and if we have a project coming up or something, we'll do stakeholder meetings, we'll do community charrettes to where we invite the public to provide input, and we always want that public input.
Yeah, it goes back to the question about the table thing. The first thing I asked was, what more information can you give me? So the better information I have, the better decision I have. So the more information you give me, the easier my job is, if that makes sense. Schedule a meeting. Schedule a meeting. Come down and sit. Let's talk, and let's just have a conversation. That's how you get heard. That's how you get heard.
Another thing is, and this group up here isn't unlike anything you guys deal with in your classroom setting too. If there is something that is going well, we like to hear about that stuff too. A lot of times, unfortunately for us, like Jason said, the 80-20. If 80's happy with it, we don't hear about them. They don't show. We don't get to talk to them that much. We get to talk to the 5% or the 20% that are, don't like the scenario or something like that. So if there's a group or a decision that is working out that as well, we love to hear that stuff as well.
I've always found that finding out why someone believes something, or they have what's driving the concern or issue that you have, trying to understand what their problem is or why they are doing something the way they're doing it is very important. Always understand what somebody else's side is thinking before you draw an opinion on that. And the other thing is, if you don't like a certain thing, have a few solutions as well, because it's easy to complain. I guess complain's a tough word, but to have an issue with something, but always have a solution. I mean, people appreciate the fact that people are willing to come up with solutions. So, again, taking everything back to design and construction in our world, so it's very easy for a contractor to look at a design and say, that won't work. Come up with another solution. Well, that creates an automatic dynamic of a rub, a fight, or a concern or issue between a team. So if I go to Jason and say, that won't work in that courthouse, he'd be like, great, thanks a lot for all the help, Jay. But if I say, Jason, I don't think that's going to work, but I think here's two potential solutions that maybe we can come together and come up with that idea, then that change and that approach that I just made there, it totally completely changed that. He didn't get defensive, and he's like, all right, there probably is a better way. Let's look at this. So that's the other thing as a citizen, is citizen engagement, is be willing to understand what the other side is thinking and always try to offer some solutions. Don't just come with, I don't like that. I think is very important for your generation to keep, because you guys are doing things already at your age now, being in this room, going through these tasks. These are small tasks that you're trying to develop solutions are. It's going to be like that the rest of your life. So always be prepared and come with solutions.
Okay, so that kind of brings us to the close of that open question and answer session. But never fear. You're still going to get an opportunity to ask those questions. So what we're going to ask the panelists to do now is we have 4 standing Claris boards around the room. So you guys can rock, paper, scissors, however you want to. Pick a Claris board that you want to stand next to. And then for the students and the teachers in the room, don't mob one of them all at once, kind of break yourselves up. But this is an opportunity that you have to go to those boards, to go to those panel members and ask them those questions directly that you've written down and you've thought about, okay? So give them a couple of minutes to get up, maybe get some water, stretch their legs, and get to the boards, and then you can head over there.
Mr. Autrey is also a referee for football.
Yes.
So he's always wrong. So
It depends. If he throws the flag against whoever's playing the Gators, then he's definitely right. Yeah.